Hello everyone and welcome you all. So today we have a very interesting topic coming up, and that's called a front-end interview questions. As we know it very well, in today's scenario, especially for the front end, we have multiple topics aligned and interviewers ask and expect lot many common questions to be answered by the participants. So we have brought some very common questions which are usually asked in interviews in web development front. As we know it very well, in our web development, we have a multiple technologies are involved, especially when it comes to HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Angular, and many more. So we have brought some really very nice questions along with the answers to help you to clear those interview questions. So let's get started. So here, what is their insight for you? So we have a one very common topic for the version control system that is called a Git. Second, we have a called HTML5. Third, it's all about CSS3. Then we talk about JavaScript. Then we have a React.js followed by Angular and generic interview questions. These six very important topics are used in web development. So people expect that you are aware about some very common questions which they usually ask. So let's get started. So we are going to talk about version control system first. What do you understand with version control system? So as we know it very well today, when we talk about call a kind of team which work in different environment, different computers, so they want to store their work in a centralized repository system, okay, so that they can keep track of what they have done, so that they can understand who have made the updates and when to roll back in case if some problem comes up. So you would like to push all the necessary repositories to the centralized system that is called version control system. So it is telling you it is a system that keeps track all the necessary changes made to a file or a set of data. Okay, so it ensures that everyone work on a most recent system, okay, while taking care about your necessary updates. Next, what is the difference between a centralized and distributed version control system? So as we know it very well, when we talk about call a centralized system, okay, so in centralized system, what happens like here, it uses a centralized server to store all different versions of files. Usually we always commit those changes to our local system, but in centralized system it helps to protect in case of any failure happens in your local environment, so it can easily protect. Okay, so developer doesn't need to save any file local to their system. Okay, so the main idea is to basically avoid single point failover and keep everything under the single location. Now when it comes to the second option called distributed version control system, so what they're trying to say that every developer has a copy of all the versions while developing a code. So it actually improves the ability to work offline and does not rely on the single locations for the backup. Okay, so there is no even threat for server crashes. That's the benefit of centralized version system. Now, my next question is like, just explain me the git push and git pull, how they're different and how they're differentiated from each other. So we know it very well when we talk about like in git push. So push is trying to commit, okay, some changes whichever are made into the local file system to the centralized repository. Okay, so whichever cloud environment you will be using it, it could be either GitHub or else you talk about Bitbucket or else you talk about GitLab. So you would like to push all those necessary changes to that location. And pull on the other hand is responsible to pull to retrieve all those version controlling to your local environment. Clear? That's the benefit and that's the difference which comes. Okay. Now, going ahead and talk about the git pull. As I said, that you try to fetch the real data from your local repository, okay, towards your local repository, whichever is there available in your cloud environment. So we say the git pull is a combination of two commands, git fetch followed by the git merge. Okay, so now next question, give us a few git commands and their functions. Okay, so there are few commands which are there. The first command is like in git config. So in git config, you basically configure your username and email address. That is really helpful whenever you would like to push the repositories in your cloud environment. Git in is to initialize a git repository. Git add is to basically add the files to the staging areas. Git diff to view the changes made to this particular file, and we have a called git commit. Okay, commit means what? The changes to the head but not to the reporter or to the remote repositories. Now, there are other commands are also available like in git reset, which is designed to undo all the changes whichever we have made to the git repository. We also have a called git status to know about the current state of the working directory and the staging area. We talk about like in git merge. Okay, so that means that you want to merge a branch, okay, into a active branch. So git push. So this is the command through which you will be upload the content from the local repository to the remote repository. Git pull is to basically fetch and download the content from the remote repositories. Now, next thing, the difference between git pull and the git fetch. So when we talk about like in git fetch, so git fetch is only downloads new data from a remote repository. Okay, so it does not integrate any of its new data into your working files. Okay, so git command or git fetch can be done at any point of time to update the remote tracking branches. Clear? That is a git fetch. On the other side, when we talk about called git pull, so git pull updates the current head branch with the latest changes from the remote servers. Okay, so the git pull downloads the new data and integrates with the current working directory files. So it actually tries to merge the remote changes with your local ones. So that's the difference between git fetch and the git pull. So the next question comes here is, what is the merge conflict in Git and how it can be resolved? See, the merge conflict is very, very common when you have the common data is available between the branches, and in that point of time, which one to take, which one to avoid. So in such kind of scenario, the conflict automatically comes in. Clear now? So you actually does what? You go back and manually edit the file and decide which particular portion you would like to keep and which other portion you would like to discard. So that's how the git merge conflict you try to utilize it. Now, when we talk about the git merge conflict, how it can be resolved. So we have a called pull request which is available under the repository name and you click it there. So in pull request actually you click to pull the request with a merge conflict which you would like to resolve. So in the near bottom of your pull request the click resolve actually conflicts. So you decide which one to keep, which one to basically avoid. So that something which really make your life even more simple to avoid the confliction, or in case in confliction comes, how to basically fix that up. Okay, so you can see now this kind of messages like in greater than, less than, and hyphen, equal to sign, this would be shown at a time of resolve. Okay, so you basically decide which one you want to take it. So if you have more than one merge conflict in your file, you just scroll down to the next set of conflict markers and repeat the steps. Okay, for 4 and 5 resolve, the merge conflict will be taken care. And once it is resolved, it will click as a result, which will be ready to get update to your existing branch. That's how exactly the merge conflict is really made up. Now, so once you have resolved all the merge, you can see the green color signal that says like, okay, there's no confliction available or no more conflict in your program. So you can simply merge the entire base branch into the head branch. Okay, so to merge your pull request, you click merge pull request. Okay, so git merge conflict, it arises when you have a multiple branches when they are trying to merge with each other. So there are some common set of data or files which will be available in both the side. So in that point of time, it needs to be avoid confliction. So that's how it really works. So how you can resolve it? So you can also resolve the merge conflict using command line. So you simply open a git bash and navigate to this particular repository where the merge conflict is actually occurred, and then it generates the list of files which are actually affected by the conflict. So in this particular example, you can see there's a one styleguide.md file which has a got merge conflict. So you basically shoot up some command. Okay, so you open it in any editor like in VS Code editor, Atom. So you go to that location, open this particular file and manipulate and decide which one you really want. And likewise, you'll be in position to resolve all the conflict and discard all those changes whichever you're not interested in. Okay, so that's how the merge conflict is already taken care of. Okay, so what you're doing it right now, you are adding your files to the stages by saying git add dot, and after that you're committing it by using this commit. So now you can merge all the branches with using push. So those changes, okay, to your remote repository on your GitHub and merge your command in a pull request. Okay, so that was a quick idea about how you can try to resolve the issue of Git conflict. Okay, so the next question comes here, that is called what is Git stash? So what is a Git stash? So imagine we are a developer and is working with the current branch and wants to switch the branch, okay, to the another branch, okay, to work on something else. Just imagine. And after that, what happens? But you don't want to commit the changes to your unfinished work because the changes are not yet decided. So you really don't want to commit those changes to your unfinished work. Okay, so the solution is called what? Is git stash. Okay, so it basically try to takes your modified tracked files and saves it on your stack of unfinished changes. That means these are not committed properly, so that you can reapply at any point of time. That is called git stash. So what is the difference between git merge and git rebase? These are a very common question. See, suppose it says you are working on a new feature of your project and in a dedicated branch, and another team members updates the master branch with some new commits. Okay, and what is happening now? So to incorporate the new commits into your feature branch, like you have already initiated one job and your team members have already initiated the job in a parallel branch, and you feel okay, you want to merge both the features together. Okay, so what you will do, so you're going to create an extra merge commit every time you need to incorporate changes, so to pollute your feature branch histories. So here what is happening now, as an alternative to merging, see, as an alternative to merging, you can rebase the feature branch into the master. So it incorporates, or whatever the changes you want to incorporates all the new commits in a master branch, number one, and it rewrites the project history by creating the brand new commits for each commit in the original branch. That's the difference between a git merge and a git rebase. So git is, as you know it very well, it is designed for the centralized repository system, and from the remote repository or from the local repository, you can basically try to update or retrieve whatever number of records you want. Okay, so to make it possible about the git, we have some, I would say, commands available. Like I talk about like in push, we talk about like in pull. So what is the difference? See, when you talk about like in push, you sense the commit and ask them to update their branch. This actually requires that things to be right on their end. Are we clear? And the pull command, on the other hand, it is nothing but a call retrieve, which is called a kind of fetch, which gets the commit and has your git update to your report or remote tracking and get you the all latest updates. Are we clear now? So let's go ahead and talk about how we're gonna be implementing this. Okay. So first of all, I will be going and creating a new empty repository by saying git space init. So you can see it is initializing the empty git repository inside this. And now I would like to create the new file and keep it inside. Okay. So if I have this file with me, okay, I'll put it under this or any file whichever I want. Suppose if I have this call uh, this, okay, and I put it under my git demo. Okay, it is there under my git demo now. Now what I can do, I can just use this statement like git space status. I can see we have one file and I'm saying git space add space dot, and once again I'm saying git status. All files are now tracked, and now I talk about git space commit space -m. Are we clear now? All changed. And now I would like to push this to my main repository. So I have this command with me called, git branch -m main, as you can see now. So just see the commands here, which we have it because I have a repository available in my remote location. So I can say git space branch, okay, space -m space main. That means I want to put it in our main branch. Okay. So now it is done, and I'll be talking about git remote where I want to add it. So this is the remote location. So I need to make this remote location available. Paste it. Okay, and I can say git space push. Okay, -u space main. Now you can see it is uploading and it's saying writing object and the records has been successfully taken. Okay, so this is how you're able to get all those into your application. Now you can see we have this React case study.docx is now available to us. Now we have an option called pull request. Are we clear? So what it is saying now, we're going to pull this request. Okay, so I can just say new pull request. Okay, so it is telling you compare and changes the branches across you want. Okay, so let me go back and change. First of all, I go back to my code, which is git dem, and here, whichever the name I have it, I just use the file which I have it now. I say git space pull. Okay, and now you can see it is taking it up. Okay, now you can see the word is being taken, and that's what the pull is. So pull actually calls the git fetch, which gets a commit and has your git updates, your remote tracking name, and then runs the second command to update your branch. So the second command can combine the parallel development. So this is how the difference between push and the pull. Hey everyone, so now we're going to talk about some of the very common and useful commands provided by the Git and their practical usage. Okay, now the first command which we always use it with the Git, okay, that is called git config. We talk about like git config. So this config is basically provide the configuration, because if you want to push or pull the repository, so it should know about on which username and which email. So we talk about the set the author name and email address, okay, with your commits. It is very, very essential. Okay. So whenever you try to perform a commit, it basically keep all the names and email associated. So we say git config hyphen global and you provide username and then you provide the username. And in a similar way, you provide the email. I just copy and here you provide what user dot and now in space you can give the username and here you provide what email. Second command which we know it very well, that is called git space what init, that is for initializing the repository as you have already seen. Next we talk about like in git space clone, okay, which is responsible to obtain the repository from the existing URL, the one which you have already taken it up. Then you have recently seen the command in my previous example, that is called git space add, okay, space file name, okay, or you can use asterisk. Asterisk means add all the files and file name will be the specific file you want to talk about. You've already seen one command name called what? Git space commit, which is to commit the records into your repository. We have also seen git space what status to know about the current status of my repository or my, the statement like in which particular position it is untracked, it is tracked, it is committed. So those status I want to know that. Clear now? So you talk about another command that is known as called git space reset. What this command does, so this git reset is basically unstage the file. Okay, unstage means earlier your file was staged, now it is unstaged but prevents, okay, or the preserve the file contents. It doesn't delete those contents, but reset means what? It does reset unstaged. When you say talk about add, it's staged. When you say reset, it unstaged, but it basically keep all the necessary data within that. Are we clear now? See, these are the some necessary commands are there, comes along with your git point. Hello everyone. So now we're going to talk about our next very interesting area of the Git, that is known as called what is a merge conflict and how to basically resolve that. Okay, see, in every situation where the work can be parallelized, in every situation where the work can be parallelized, work will eventually overlap. Sometimes two developers will change the same line of code in two different ways. In such cases, Git can't tell which version is correct. That time you have to decide. Okay, so to work with the merge conflict, okay, so Git gives you the clue. Like say like I have got two updates, which one you want to keep it? So that you would like to make it now. So to make it this possible, we will be using the system. Now to make it possible, I would like to create a one simple example of avoiding the Git merge, or sorry, the Git conflict. So first of all, I will say ls-l, nothing is there. So we are saying git space init, it will be initializing the repository ls-l. It would not be showing any, the hidden repository which is created, but certainly in my VS Code editor, I can see it is created for me. That's perfectly fine. Let me go back and create the new file here. Okay, and I just create using echo. This is new readme file. Okay, and the file name will be what? .md. Okay, you can see this new file has been created now. Okay, so what I'll be doing now, I can go back and change some content inside this. Okay, so first of all, let me check cat space readme.md. I can see this is a new file with me. Now I can say git space add space readme.md. Okay, and after that I can say git space commit space -m. I can say readme added. Okay, we can see now one file changed and is all done. So we just talk about git space status. It says on branch master, it is done. Okay, so that's it, it is there. Now let's go back and create a new branch now. So to create a new branch, what I'll be saying git space checkout. I'm going to create a new branch space -b. Okay, and I'm going to give the name call okay, branch to create conflict. Okay, so we're saying git space checkout, okay, space -b, and we're just giving that name here. Okay, so we're just saying so let's check about what is there. Okay, so we've created status conflict, and the branch will be created and it will be shifting out there. So you see, like we're saying switch to the new branch to conflict, and if I want to check by saying git space branch, so I can say my current position is branch to conflict. Okay, and below this we have this statement to me. Now what I can say, I can create the changes inside my readme.file. Okay, so what we can do now here in this readme.md file, I can go back and change by saying on the branch. Okay, this is an edit on the branch, and what we can do now, we can once again just check git space status. We can see the file has been modified now, and I can just use git space commit, okay, space -m space, we can give a value call on branch. Okay, now you can see this is telling you the change. Okay, so we are saying one file change, two modifications modified, but yes, we haven't add those to make those changes, so we just need to say git space add space, okay, and then commit it. And now you can see one file change, two insertions. Now it is working because I did not add those. And once it is done, then we'll be switching back to our master branch. So right now readme.md have those changes. I'll go back to my master branch. We say git checkout master. Now you can see if I say git checkout master, it is having the older data which is available to us. Okay, and now I can just make the changes once again here. I can say this is master. Okay, now I can call git space status, and I can call git space add space readme.md, and we can just say git space commit space hyphen m, updated again in master. Okay, and you can see it's done. But now when it talk about like in merging, that the challenge will come. Now if I just talk about git space branch, so it is in master branch right now. So if I want to merge the master branch with this branch, so what I'll be doing now, so I will just use this option like in what, git space merge. Okay, and we have a call branch, okay, underscore to underscore conflict. You can see now conflict came up. Are we clear now? It is saying auto merging, it's a conflict content. And you can see immediately it is telling you this is accept correct changes. This is the master and this is an edit. Are we clear? So at this point of time, you have to decide which one you want to keep and which one you want to avoid. So if you want to keep the which one that on edit which is done in a child branch, so what you can do, you can basically keep those, okay, and let those changes will be done by your application. Okay, so now when I say, you can say, okay, and that's it. So this is how exactly the merge conflict is taking place. Okay, everyone. So now you can tell which other file you want to make. So that's how the final file which is available to you. And that's the beauty of what the conflict changes. I hope you're all clear. Okay, so the get interview questions are over. Now we are heading towards an HTML interview questions. Now here are a few questions like what is an attribute in HTML? So you can consider the attributes are the properties that can be added into the HTML tag and that changes the way the tag behaves or it is displayed. Okay, so you can see here you have a call button. Okay, so attributes are added right after the name of the HTML tag. So button is an element for me, it's not an attribute. Okay, so what is a marquee in an HTML file? So marquee is something which keep on rotating. Okay, say for scrolling down the text page or the text on the web page, marquee is used. Sometimes you might have seen when you want to display some very important information, okay, which needs to scroll at the bottom or else the right after a specific period of time, you always use marquee. It is one of the very old element available under the HTML page. So it scrolls the image top, left, right, center automatically everywhere. So you always use marquee tags for rotating it. So the next is what is the semantic in HTML? See, semantics are HTMLs are nothing but a call another coding style. Okay, so when you talk about a semantics, so they are basically reinforcing the meaning of the contents. Like typically you have seen we are using div and span tag, but the div and span tag really don't make sense to us as an HTML reviewer unless I go inside those and get to know about what they're really doing it. So semantics are nothing but these are the standard tags. Are we clear? So you can see like here like bold tag is not useful for the bold statement as well as the italic tag is useful for what? For the italic tag. So instead of we are using strong and em tags. Are we clear now? So this makes more sense to us. Now the next thing is how do you display a table in an HTML web page? So obviously we have a got table tag and under the table tag I can align the complete layout of my web page because of table head, table body, table row, table columns. There are multiple different type of elements which are available, okay, which are the part of table. It's just to basically align the content in a proper format. What is SVG? Okay, so SVG is basically known as a kind of a graphic which is written in a typical XML language. The SVGs are the high quality graphics which doesn't tear off when you basically grow. and increase or zoom. So normally what happens, GIF image, you talk about JPEG images, after beyond certain point, their pixel get deteriorated. But here in SVG, it never happens. So you go to any level when you want to zoom and you're gonna get accurate contents at any point of time. Okay, so these vector graphics are really typically 2D based diagrams and give you the X and Y coordinates in a regular systems. Next, how do you separate a section of text in HTML? To separate a sections of text in HTML, we always use what? Either BR, or else we use block code, or else we use what? A paragraph tag. So BR means anyways, it separate out the text and break the current line. Paragraph is used to again write a paragraph of text, and the block quotes is used to define the large quoted sections. Okay. Next is how do you create the nested web page in HTML? So obviously we have a different type of options that are available like an iframe. Okay, you mean to say page within a web page. Okay, so we can create a page within a web page with using iframe. So this is a very common questions we used to receive at the time of interview. Okay, the difference between ordered list and unordered list. So ordered list will give you the different ways to display the data in Roman format, in numeric digits, or else you can talk about like an alphabetical order. But the unordered list, it's completely unordered. You don't get any options like an ordered list. Okay, so the ordered list start with OL and unordered list starts with UL. In our HTML demos, I'm going to start with very first file that is known as called table demo. Like how we can offer you the table related tags inside the HTML. So table, as we know it very well, it is designed to organize your contents or give you the proper layout. So it is a very old technique we are using to align or to define a proper layout. So this HTML page will start working with the very first tag that is called table. Within this table, we will be using tr, that is called table row. Under this table row, we'll be using th called table heading, and inside this table heading, we're going to give call name. Like this, I copy, and here we say employee name. I say city, or I can say name city, and we can say department. Three parameters I have it now, so-called three different headings. And these headings are getting closed, and we're going to start working with another table row, and here we'll be providing the data. So again, another tr, again we'll be having this td. In this td, we can say admin. This will be the first attribute we're going to use. It's called admin, followed by another properties. We say admin mail.com, department I can say HR, or we'll try to copy this again and have few more rows. I can say, no, I can say admin, I can say Atul. Here we say, okay, so here we can say finance. So this is going to give me the data, so-called what? Table data. So we're giving TD. So here, let me see how the outcome will be. So in Finder, there we go. Now you can see it's going to give me the proper look and feel for how the table really looks like in. So that's a quick example of table. But yes, if you want to organize a table a little bit more better, are we clear? So thus you can apply some of the styles on the top of that. Like as you can see here, we have a called table. So we can just use inline style that is called style equal to float colon right. So if I do so, I will see some difference. You can see it is on right hand side. By default it will be on left, or there's no center. No, nothing. It will be either left, float left. Okay. So like this, you're going to offer the table. So this is a very simple example of like how the table can be created within your HTML. Next, after this table, we're gonna go ahead with some new ideas. Well, if you want to make this table even more attractive, we have some options with us by offering some styles. This example will be seeing it in our upcoming demos in a CSS. So that is the table demo which we have recently seen. Going ahead, we'll be talking about like in how we can offer you the SVG, scalar vector graphics, that is there a feature added under the HTML 5.0. So how you'll be adding it, let's take a look. Let me add a new file called svg demo.html. Here, let me add a template, and here onwards, we'll be adding this svg. So svg itself is a tag. Okay, so we're using this svg here, and this svg we have to provide some standard width and height. So we say width equal to 100, and we just say height equal to 100. That's we are providing with the svg. Here, if I try to see the outcome, because it would not show right now, but certainly we can add it and see what we can apply over here. So we have a called svg. Let me add the first property called circle. Clear? So in this circle, we'll be offering the x and y coordinates. So we can say cx equal to, I can say 50 x. Okay, and we also use cy equal to, once again, 50, and followed by r radius equal to the way you want. So within this, I'll be offering the stroke, the surrounding part, but let's see. You can see it automatically came. The best part is like if you expand or zoom at whatever level, it won't go down, and that's the beauty. Okay, and here we can attach the some color strokes, whichever you want to give it here, that we can give it. So here we say stroke. Okay, and this is a circle, so we would like to offer the other properties. So this will be the stroke for me. So rather than writing this separate, I can better attach it here. Stroke equal to, you can just say black, and we can use this option like in stroke width, stroke hyphen width equal to, you can give 3, and followed by, you can use fill color which you would like to make it. So I can just say pink, like this. Okay, that's it. Let's check. Awesome, this looks beautiful. That is one of the basic example of like how you can use this svg. Okay, so now we're going to talk about our next feature in a same continuation to the HTML. I'm going to talk about something called how you will be separating it out, the sections of HTML page. See, HTML page comes with loads and loads of data. Now, how you'll be separating it out? Now, how you'll be arranging it properly to tell like, okay, this particular section contains this related data. So in HTML5, we have a one beautiful feature comes that is known as called semantics. It is a feature of HTML5 that not only helps the Google, that is which we talk about called search engine optimization, that's called SEO, but also to make the developers life even more easier to understand the contents what is there beneath. So let's go ahead and talk about our next feature called how you're going to be separating it out. So this note's called semantics. So we're going to talk about called Okay, semantics.html. Here we will start working with the same HTML tags with us. So here we will start working with the data. So we always have some predefined tags called, we will call header. Okay, I can say this is header, and after this we have a call footer. Can say this is footer. So this is how you can see more meaningful. We talk about like a nav. You see, like it is a nav. We can say this is menu nav. Okay, along with this navigation, we can also offer call section. Okay, so under the sections, you can have an articles. Okay, so we can say uh, under the sections, let's talk about call article. So article, we can say this is article 1. Okay, and we can say this is article 2, and we can create n number of sections in my code. Okay, and after that we can have summary. Okay, which can defines the for details element. So like there are lot many are available. So if you can just take a look through the semantics, you really won't find any difference, but yes, it is a separators. Okay, so used heavily inside HTML based applications. So that's how you are defining the separators into your code. So it looks more even easy to understand what is there under. So that's how we define this layouts. Well, coming to the next area of our HTML, we're going to talk about something called how you're going to be defining, okay, a nested HTML page. So nested HTML page, we have a feature that means page under page. So that's called iframe. Iframe is a feature, okay, that helps the user to define the page under the page. And how do we use that? Let's take a look. So under the body section, okay, I will be offering iframe. Okay, so I can just use h3. I say iframe demo, and within this I'll be using iframe tag. You can say iframe src equal to, I can just give the name of Simplilearn. So you can just go ahead, sorry, spelling wrong. So you can just see the simplilearn.com, that is the website. So I can just copy this, okay, and offer this iframe src equal to https simplilearn.com. Okay, and that's it. So we have a call frame border. I really do not want a frame border. If you want, you can just add the initial value, clear, and you can talk about call style in the same level. Okay, so you can just say style. In style, you can also offer some other type of details too. Okay, let's see how we use it. So here we are talking about our style part. So style, you can just say height. So height, you can define how much height you want. So I can just say 300 pixels. Okay, and also we can offer the width. So width, I can say again 300 pixels. So these are the properties are there. Let's check how it really looks like in. So here in our nested, now you can see we have got this Simplilearn refused to connect because of some, connection issues, so it works. But you can see like how it is showing you in your application to have a quick look. Okay, so that's an idea like how the iframes are used inside your code. Okay, so you can also offer some other type of tools, like you can say here uh, if I say google.com, see it's gonna show you like this. Okay, because of security issues, it is not. If I just go to the inspect area, you can say console, they say cross origin, same origin. So this issues normally comes. Okay, but anyways, that is how I told you to use this frame into your code. Well, going to the next area of this HTML, that's called defining the list. Now this is once again a very interesting area of HTML. Okay, where you're gonna get the different set of display if you want to display the data in the form of list. So if you have in a form of array, you want to display this in a form of list, you can certainly get it. So HTML has got inbuilt tags available for the list. Two different type of tags are available. One is called ordered list and second called unordered list. Ordered list always starts with OL. Yeah, it always starts with OL called ordered list. Under this, we'll be using LI, that stands for list items. So you can give the items like I'm talking about, like in soap. Okay, and another one I can just take is called mobiles. Next, we are talking about machines. So that is called ordered list. So this ordered list gonna give you the idea of like how the data really looks like, and you can see now. Okay, and this also you can change look, okay, while using this type equal to options are there, like you want to have a numbering, which is the by default option. If you want to use alphabetical, you can see it is showing the alphabetical Roman numbers. That is called ordered list. The other hand, we have this option like in UL called unordered list. And in on this unordered list, you won't get any kind of sequences, but yes, the data would be available to us, but there'll be no sequence kept in. So here, this is called UL. Mm, yeah, unordered list. Let's check. Now you can see that only disks are coming up, but there's no exactly the type. Okay, so that is a quick difference between the ordered list and unordered list provided by HTML to us. Okay, so we have already seen the difference between ordered list and unordered list. Now it's time to talk about our another type of interview questions, which is regards to your CSS. Now, in CSS interview, the first question they always ask you like, how do you add CSS styling in HTML? So we have different ways to include. Number one, we have a called inline CSS, where we use the element and within that we try to add a CSS content. That is called inline CSS. Second is called external style sheet. Okay, where you can just use as a secondary or the you know external CSS file and just include it into your existing HTML page. Okay, that is the additional file which you write it in a CSS and you include it in HTML. And third is called, which is the internal style sheet, which you write it within your HTML. But the only difference happens when you talk about external, it is reusable across multiple web pages. Now, the different type of CSS selectors which are available. So we have a different selectors like a universal selector which is available, where you use the asterisk sign and select all the elements and offer the common style. Second, we talk about element type selector, where you have the specific element name into your mind and you offer that particular type of selector. ID selector is responsible to select the particular element with it having the proper ID. Class selector, which starts with a dot class, okay, and having the class name. We talk about descendant selector. So in descendant selector, you basically try to select all the elements which are the part of that. Okay, so you are selecting this container and under that all the child elements of the box. Okay, so we're talking about like in what of your descendant selector. We talk about called child combinator. So in this case, you are basically trying to select all those which is the child of this container. So you are using this greater than symbol of container dot box. Okay, so selecting all those which are having the child name called box available. Then you're talking about a general sibling selectors with this tinder sign. And finally, we talk about like an attribute selector where you have a proper attribute available to you. Okay, so these are known as called general CSS selectors. Followed by, we have a next question like in what is Sass, less and stylus? Friends, these are the advanced level of CSS used in the industry. So we talk about like it what is a Sass, which we talk about like in statically awesome style sheet. So we also have a similar type of option like in less and many more. Okay, so it says about the Sass saying that it is a statically awesome style sheet. It is basically taking the complete CSS to the next level. So that is a third party website, but once again, it is very awesome CSS, which can offer you the mathematical functions as well as the reusability. You talk about less. Okay, so we talk about linear style sheet where you can see all statements which starts with at the rate sign. There in SAS, every single variable start with a dollar sign. Then you talk about stylus. It is also flexible CSS, so it doesn't use at the rate or dollar for any defining variables. We can just directly use this with the name, okay, and use it at any point of time. So these are the three very popular new or next generation CSS. So explain box sizing property, like how you can offer the property for the box sizing. So here, so box sizing property actually defines how to basically define height and the width of the box which are calculated. So you talk about a term name called content box, you talk about padding box, and you talk about border box. Typically, we use three different type of box: content, padding, and border box. In a content box, these are the default width and the height which can apply to the elements content which are there under the content box. Okay, padding box are here you talk about the dimensions which are added to the box elements of the content padding. Third, which is available called border box. So here the dimensions added to the content padding and the border. Now, what are the different way to hide the element in a CSS? So we have a different way. Either we can use display none. That means whatever is there inside a DOM, it won't be visible to you. Second option is visibility hidden. That is another property through which you can eliminate the visibility. But the thing is like it is not visible to the user, but this element is added to the DOM and takes up the space. But in display none, it doesn't load in a DOM. So somewhere to when you want to talk about performance, display none is anytime better. And second called position absolute. So this can be made to the appear outside the screen. So three different options are available. Next option, what does that important CSS mean? So the important keyword actually indicates that the highest precedence and it overrides the cascade properties. Okay, so like as you can see here we have a call paragraph where we have a color called important and there's a one ID name called thing color called green. So when you talk about PID equal to what thing, so it automatically try to override the highest precedence. Okay, now what are the CSS sprites? CSS sprites is a technique where you can basically take a larger image, okay, download it in a single shot and try to cut down into the pieces and utilize the way you always want. Okay, so if you're using this small images separately, okay, so to load those images independently you would be making multiple HTTP calls which can be an overhead. So it is good to basically download this lengthy image in a single shot, clear, and utilize them as per your convenience within your application. So it is used to minimize the loading time of your web page by combining multiple smaller picture into the single image. Okay, that's what the CSS sprites are. So which properties used to underline and strike through and the overline text? So we have this option text style, text type, text decoration, text transform. Okay, so the text decoration. So the text decoration is the one which will be helping you to achieve this. So I would like to demonstrate some of the CSS related features. The very first feature is like how many ways are there to add CSS inside your code. So Here I'll be creating a new file name called index.html. Okay, how many ways are there to add a CSS into your code? So there are three different ways are there. Okay, the number one, which is known as called external CSS, internal CSS, and inline CSS. External CSS means you have some CSS features externally used and that you want to make it available locally. Okay, let's take a look. Here I'm going to create the new file under the CSS demo that is known as called styles.css. And here we can write some normal styles, like I can talk about body. In this body we can just say background color equal to, let's say, pink. Okay, and I want to include this inside my local environment. So here in my head section I would like to use link. Okay, so you can see we have an options available name called link rel equal to style sheet href equal to style, but my class name is styles. Let's say styles.css and check how it works. So here you can see now the background color is changed to what? To pink. That is called external CSS. The best part of the external CSS is to give you the reusability factor. So if any other HTML file want to use the same style, it can be easily used. Second is called internal style sheet. Internal style sheet means you will be having, or some of them say it is a kind of embedded style sheet where you have the styles available locally, and that starts with style tag. Here you define suppose h1, and in this h1, suppose if I say color, I'm saying suppose blue, and here we are defining the h1. Okay, I'm saying welcome to heading, and if I just try, you can see now this internal style sheet is utilized here. That is known as called internal or embedded style sheet. And the third, which is known as called inline style sheet, where you offer the style, okay, to the element itself, which is uh, I say try to avoid. It is not recommended to use because it, you lose out the meaning of elements completely. So we just use this statement like in what? Text. Suppose we talk about text. So with this, we will be using this as style tag equal to text align. And if I just use center, so you will see here. So all three styles are applicable in the same page. That is called internal style sheet. That is called inline style sheet. And this is known as called external style sheet. So I'm sure we got the idea about how the three style sheets are utilized together. Well, going ahead and taking it towards another very interesting area of our CSS called different type of CSS selectors. See, ultimate goal of CSS is what? To apply the style on your target elements. Okay. So in CSS we have got multiple type of ways to select your elements. In CSS it is known as called CSS selectors. Okay, so CSS selectors are used to select the content where you want the style to be applied. Okay, so there are multiple type of selectors are available. First type of selector you've already seen, that is called element selector. That is called what? Element selector. Another type of option which is available, that is known as called ID selector. That means if I have a one h3 content with me and I can say this is heading 3, and if I want to utilize here call h3 and I say what? Class equal to, give the name, I can just say h3 demo, just a name, you can give any name. Here if I just use with dot keyword, I say h3 demo, and here if I want to apply the style, I can say color aqua. That means it will be applicable only on those particular classes which color equal to what? Aqua. Let's take a look. There you go. Okay, so you got to know this is known as called what? CSS selector. another option which is available called ID selector. That means similar elements can be now accessed through help of IDs. Like if I remove this class and if I use ID equal to s3 demo, so you don't use dot, you rather use what? Hash. Okay, and give the color the way you want. Suppose if I want to talk about like an blue violet, so now you will see it looks like this. Okay, so that's called ID selector. So element selector we have seen, class selector we have seen, ID selector we have seen. Now we talk about universal selector. Universal selector means what? That means all elements will be selected, like it starts with asterisk and I say align, text align, center. If I see, that means all the elements will be aligned to the center. As you can see now, all our elements are aligned to the center. That means whichever element we declare it, even if I declare paragraph tag here, I say this is para, it will equally applicable to this paragraph too. You can see now it is also coming into the center. That is called universal selectors. Last, which is called group selector, where you can have elements which can be grouped together, like I guess I can see h1, and if you want to apply the similar style for h1 as well as for the h4, so you can just use what? H1, h4. Okay, they'll be sharing the same feature now. So if I just use this h4, this is heading 4. Now, well, now you can see both headings are now sharing the common feature. This concept is known as called group selectors, where you can select the group of elements together which you want. So I told you about element selector, where you target the specific element. ID selector with the ID attribute. Class means you always use with the ID class. ID, when you talk about universal, you talk about asterisk, you talk about group selector, when you're trying to tell the group of elements which you want to utilize it together. So these are the quick benefits and the ways how we define it. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we will be talking about our next feature, okay, in this CSS, that is known as called what is the difference between, or how many ways are there to hide the elements. Okay, how many ways are there to hide the elements? So there are two options are available in CSS to hide the elements. Number one is called display none and second is called visibility hidden. Okay, now let me try to show you this examples. So as of now, I'm removing this all records whichever is there under the style and removing it all. Okay, now let's make it very simple. So it is called like hiding the elements. We have two options. Either we can use display none or else we can use visibility hidden. So display none removes the element from the normal flow of the page. Are we clear? And visibility hidden leaves the element in the normal flow. Are we clear? But occupies a space in a DOM. That means it would not be showing the elements in your browser, but behind the scene, it will take the space. So it will be quite heavy. So display none is a better option compared to the visibility hidden. Both options are designed to hide the elements. Let me show you very simple example here. So first statement, what I'm trying to do is here I'm defining this ex1, and this ex1 we are using this a space href equal to hash. Okay, and we're using style. Okay, in style we are saying display colon none, so I won't be displaying it. Okay, and here after that I close this and I say unseen. Okay, after this I am breaking it here, fine, and copy the same and pasting it below. You say like ex2. Well, ex1 is saying what? Display none, and style here we are not be using rather we'll be saying visibility. Which option we are using? This visibility, and this visibility will be checking visibility hidden. In such case, when I try to run the example, you see like both the options are not visible, but when I say inspect, you can see here it is saying display none, visibility hidden. So you can see here in this example, both options are not showing. Okay, so the answer is very clear to us. None of the hyperlinks are showing to us because that's where the conditions are. Okay, so we understood about the way how to basically hide the elements from the browser. There is another feature, friends, coming up in the CSS front, and that is called a feature called property called important. So important is again a type of property. It is a rule in CSS to add more importance to a particular property than like a normal value. So important will try to override all the previous stylings and give the next available value to your element. Now let me show you how it really works. So just imagine I have got this body tag, and in this body tag we have got h1. We can say this is heading 1. Okay, like this I can copy and paste. Okay, so this is heading 1, heading 1. 3 times I'm playing it now. Now in this case, I may have a multiple classes are also available. This is a like normal. I can say equal to. I can use head 1. Okay, and here also I'm saying rather than using class, okay, I can use what id equal to head 2. You can change the name as you want. And here what I can do is in my style, I can use this first option for id that is called head 2. Okay, I can use one more that is called head 1. So two properties I have it, head 1 and head 2, and we can also use h1 as like a normal property. Head 2 we can give this for id. I can say background color, I say pink. Head 1 I can just use background color red. And here what I can do, I can override the properties. So what I can do here in my application, I can zip h1. Here I say background, okay, color, and here we can just use as a what, as a call brown. So if I say brown in that case, and if I make it as an important, like I say important by saying exclamation mark important, so what would happen? Just take a look here. You will see it basically replacing all the colors with what, with brown, because I'm making it as a what, as a important, and I say it overrides or overrule all the previous property. If I remove it, okay, so it will be changing it to the different color. And here I just use what, dot, and here I use what, hash. Head 2 is the id, so I can just use hash here, and here we use what, dot. Now you see they will be having their own dedicated colors. Okay, I say like this, but if I just make it as a what, important, and I use it as a call what, green yellow, so you can see it will apply the green yellow to everywhere. Okay, so that is an important property. Let's override all the previous rules. That's how the CSS is. Okay, everyone. So our next example is towards focus on JavaScript interview questions. Now here we have few questions that are available, like what are the various data types in JavaScript. So JavaScript contains different type of JavaScript data types. Like if you think about all different types which are there generally, byte, short, int, long, float, double, character, boolean. These are all different type of data types are supported inside a JavaScript. Okay. Now, going ahead, what is the callback in JavaScript? So the callback means is a function, okay, that is passed to another function as an argument on a parameter. Okay. So what is the callback? Callback means don't call me, I will call you. Clear? So the idea is like you are passing the function itself as a parameter to the another function, because the JavaScript is known to be a call non-blocking, which never wait for the code to finish. It continues to move on. And due to some reason, if your function it's taking some time to execute, so JavaScript won't wait for that particular function to finish. So you use callback to prevent such behavior. Okay, that's called a JavaScript callback. Now, what is the difference between function declaration and function expression? See, this is called function declaration, and you talk about a function expression. Function declaration is just to declare a separate statement within a main JavaScript code, and you can be called before the function is defined. Okay, it gives you the better readability, where the function expression are always created inside the expression. Okay, and it is created when the execution point reaches it. Are we clear? And it is used when there is a need of for a conditional declaration of a particular function. Now, what do you understand about the cookies in a JavaScript? So it is one of the very common question. Cookies are the one which is created by the server stored in a client side, which is responsible to store all the necessary client activities so that the browser or the application give the better recommendation to the user. Okay, so it is just a small text file which is stored in a browser itself. Okay, so it want to record something about a user activity, you always put it like that. And you can also define the expiry time for the cookies, okay, as per your convenience, to decide how long the cookie wants to be there inside your browser. If you do not offer any time span, by default the cookie will get lost immediately the moment the browser closed. Next, what are the closures in JavaScript? So closures are the JavaScript is a feature where the inner function has an access to outer functions, variables, and the properties. Okay, so you can consider a closure has a three scope chains. Number one, it has an access to its own scope that is defined within its curly braces. Second, it has an access to the variable of the outer function and also has an access to the global variables. Now, the closure is a JavaScript feature, as I told you, like which has an access to the outer functions variable. Simple example I can give it to you is a function which is known as called inner function, and there's a function defined on the top is an outer function. So it is having all the functionalities access of the outer function inside it. Now, what are the imports and export in JavaScript? So import and exports in a JavaScript is a very common way how in Java you use the term name called import a package. But in JavaScript it is little different. Unless you export something, you can't import it. Okay, so if you want to access any of your files, properties or methods outside of your file, you always use the statement of import and export. So here you can see you have got one property like an sqrt which you are exporting it, and you have one function which is called square. There's another function called, you can say, diag, which you are exporting it and importing it just the way you always want. So that is how it is importing and exporting. What is the difference between undefined, undeclared and null in a JavaScript? See, undefined means a variable that is declared but the value has not been assigned yet. That is called undefined. Undeclared means like it is a null. First of all, we talk about null. Null means it is an assignment value that we can assign to any variable that is meant to contain no value. And undeclared means the variables are not declared and do not exist in a program. Okay, that is called what? Undeclared. How to remove the duplication from the JavaScript array? So you basically needs to use the standard filter methods, okay, This is basically responsible to help you to analyze whether we have some duplicates available or not. So we'll be using filter methods. Okay, so these are basically known as called array and the current element and the index of current element. And by using the for loop, it is an empty array is used for the storing all the repeated elements. Okay, so these are known as called a typical JavaScript discussion which we have taken place. Multiple questions are there which we have already answered. It's time to basically talk about JavaScript. So I'm going to create a new folder now with a name called JS Demos. And in this JS Demos, we would like to explain you the different concepts. The first, let me go and create index.html, and I will be creating another file here called demo.js. Well, my first concept towards this JavaScript is like working with callbacks. Like what are the callbacks are? See, the ideally as we know, callbacks are the function which you pass it, okay, to the another function as a parameter. So we'll be seeing how this callbacks really works with showing you one very small demonstration. Let me have this HTML5 here, and here we would like to use script src equal to demo.js, and in my demo.js I'd like to create const, okay, get blogs, okay, equal to, now this function called get blogs, let me have this arrow sign here. So now here I would like to provide one function called set timeout. This set timeout, as you know, there is a JavaScript function which delays the response time. I'm delaying it for 2000 millisecond, and here in set timeout we are saying return, and here we'll provide property called title colon welcome to JS. So this get blocks is a function having one, it is returning one an object of having property called title and saying welcome to JS, delaying for 2000. Here I'm saying const bp is just a variable equal to get blocks, okay, and here we'll be using console.log, and here we'll be providing the property like in what bp dot title. So that's the property for me. Now ideally if I just check, if I try to run my code, I want to see what outcome I'm going to receive while try to running this. So I'll go back to my browser and just check what works. Nothing is displaying, but when I go to the inspect, I'll see it is saying like cannot read property title got undefined. Yeah, now why it happens? Because JavaScript is non-blocking. It doesn't wait for the function or the, I would say, the block of code to get over. If it is delaying for 2000 millisecond, then title property will be available only after the 2000 milliseconds are lapsed. But here the output is displaying title immediately. Due to that, it is saying like, hey, title is not available because it is delaying for 2000 millisecond. Now this is the concept where the closure, sorry, this callback comes, where you're passing the function itself as in parameter to another function, which will wait till the time the job get over. So here what I'll be doing, I'll be removing this, I'll be using this as a function called cb, sorry, cb, and have this and close it here. Now we have a one function name called cb, okay, which is having property called title, and I'm passing this cb as a what, as a parameter here. Now this is called callback. You're passing function itself as an what, as an parameter to another function. And here in get blocks, what I'll be doing it, I'll be using get blocks. Here we are passing bp as an parameter, and now let me take this to back to my code bp.title, and let me see how it works. Okay, so that's where the concept really comes in. So now after 2000 milliseconds are over, response is available. Response is available. Let me refresh. 2 milliseconds, oh sorry, 2000 milliseconds, the response is available. That's the concept of callback where you are passing the function itself as a parameter to another function. Okay, everyone. So after this, we're going to start working with our next area of discussion. That is called what is the difference between a function expression and function declaration. Okay. See, ideally, if you check, they are actually really similar. Okay. How you call them is exactly the same. The difference is how the browser loads them into the execution context. Again, I'm telling you the concept of, let me try to create a new file and give the name called declaration versus expression. So what I'm trying to tell you is they are actually really simple or similar. How you call them is exactly the same. The only difference lies here is how the browser load them into the execution context. So function declaration loads before any code is executed. Again, I'm repeating, function declaration loads before any code is executed, where the function expression load only when the interpreter reaches at the end of the code. Okay. So as I said, the function expression loads only when the interpreter reaches that line of code. Okay. So once again, I repeat the difference. Function declaration loads before any code is executed. However, the function expression loads only when the interpreter reaches that line of code. So if you try to call function expression before it is loaded, you will get an error for sure. If you call a function declaration instead, it will work because no code can be called until all declarations are loaded. Like again, I'm telling you this example. If I say alert demo, I'm using this, okay, and I'm coming down, okay, and I'm using this var demo equal to function which says return hello. Are we clear? So you see, it is an error. Why it is an error? You can see the error carefully. They say whatever the reason is. Okay, suppose even if I put semicolon here, so there'll be no difference here because they're telling you very clearly, like this example is an error because the demo function was not found. It is an example of function expression. Function declaration, however, what would happen in the other side? Okay, it will run. Are we clear? It will run without having any issue. The way you call, it's gonna work without having any issue. Okay, that is the alert demo. Okay, here we have a call object which is returning here, and that's it. And this is called function expression. And if I just show you about the another way around, so we're just going to say alert demo 2 here. Suppose when we are saying this alert demo 2 here, let me try to close this. Okay, it is an actually error here in our alert demo. When I say the same example, alert demo 2, okay, and I'm using it here by saying function, okay, and I'm using this call demo 2, okay, and here we're just saying return. Is it gonna work for you? Okay, this is gonna work for you. That's the difference between function expression and function declaration. So this is the function expression and this is the function declaration. Hope you're all clear about this. Well, another example which I'm trying to show to you, that is called working with the closures. So I'm going to create a new file here called, now what is the closure? See, the idea behind the closure is very important because it is a core concept of JavaScript. The idea behind a closure means that the inner function, okay, you have an outer function, you have got inner function. Inner function always have an access to the variables and the parameter of its outer function, even after the outer function has returned. Okay, now let's see how we're going to declare this. In this example, if I define one function, okay, this function name is called outer, okay, and here I'm defining one variable called ov, okay, equal to 100 is a variable declaration. And after that, we are declaring the nested function inside this by saying function inner, okay. And now inside this, I'm going to declare a simple alert, sorry, a simple alert where we are displaying the outer variable, the one which is defined, okay. After this, a function, we are just saying what? Return inner. See, inner function has already returned. And after this, what I'll be doing, I'm just going to create the object of var inner function equal to outer. The object we are creating it now, okay. And after that, we are calling inner function. And ideally, it should work because that is what I said. The implementation is very simple. The inner function will have the access of what? Come on, outer function variable, even it has been returned. And that's what we're doing it now. And if I just check how it is, so here I have a call closure demo.js. Let me invoke the closure demo. Now you can see it is working. That's the beauty of the closure. Okay, so we understand like closure example is very simple, where it is giving you the access of external variables can be accessed by the inner variables, okay, very easily. Now I'm going to tell you about the difference between, okay, the difference between the null, undefined and undeclared. Again, I'm repeating my word. Three options: undefined, null and undeclared. What is the difference? So here I'm going to define a new file called in this differ.js. Undefined means what? Undefined means a variable that has been declared but not has assigned a value. Okay, like if I just say var a, I'm defining this log, okay, and I'm say a. So that is called undefined. That is called undefined. You're using it, the value hasn't been defined. Are we clear? That means the value is undefined. Null means it can be assigned to a variable to a represent no value. Again, null means what? It can be assigned to a variable to a represent no value. Like you think about a situation var b equal to what? Null. Are we clear? And if I say log, okay, and I'm defining the b, this will be null. So it can be assigned to a variable to represent no value. That is called null. And undeclared means what? Undeclared means if a variable is not declared, then the browser throws an error. Here at least you declare a variable, but you haven't defined the value. And here I'll be showing what? Log. And here if I just say demo. So this is certainly a what? Come on, undeclared. This is called what? Your application will be throwing the error saying like, hey, what are you trying to access? It doesn't even exist. So here the type is undefined. Okay, that's the differences. Okay, so we are clear about what do you mean by undefined, undeclared versus the null values. Now the next thing is how to basically try to eliminate the arrays, duplicate values from the arrays. So if you're planning to remove the duplicate values from where? From the array, you have options with you. What options? Very simple. To remove the duplicate elements in an array, let me declare a one simple let data equal to, here let's define a value like an a, like an b, okay, like an c, And once again, we are defining what? A. So A is a duplicate. It should not be repeated while displaying. So we can just use what? Let unique equal to, we're using what? Data. It contains one function called what? Filter. Inside this filter, we're passing two properties here. Number one is just a character like in C, and second we're passing what? Index. Okay. And here we're defining return. Okay. The property called what? Data. Okay. Dot index of. Okay. Here we are passing the first character like in what? C, index. That's it. That's how we are defining. And let's close this and use log what? The unique. Okay. And this demo.js, we are including it our index.js. Okay. And let's check this out. Now you can see it is having ABC. It doesn't have any duplicate elements which we have defined. Now let me add another one that is called B again. But here you see it's still having what? The same value. So this is how the way you remove the duplicate elements from where? From the array. Very simple and straightforward utilization of the filter function. Okay, thank you. Well, let's go ahead with the next area that is called working with React.js interview questions. Now, as we know it, React.js is as important as like in other tools which you've already has seen. So what is the JSX here? JSX called JavaScript syntax extension. Okay, so this syntax extension to the JavaScript in React.js is in the way how you express to bind JS and HTML together to result a JSX content. So by using JSX, you can write a HTML structure in the same file that contains the JavaScript code. That is something more innovative way. Because of that, React.js is creating a more buzz in the market. So JSX actually helps to making code more easy to understand and debug and avoids a lot of boilerplate code, okay, inside the DOM structure. Now, the next thing is what is a virtual DOM? See, the virtual DOM is representing a DOM in a memory. Okay, that is called virtual DOM. So manipulating the real DOM is much more slower and costly affair. Okay, because you need to repaint the DOM over and over the period of time when the user changes few things. So when the state change, virtual DOM changes, and only the objects which are in real DOM, okay, update instead of updating the entire object. So that makes your page to be load far more faster. Okay, so in virtual DOM, what happens? This is the real DOM, this is a virtual DOM. So the orange color portions which you're seeing, that is basically the changes which has been made. Okay, these are called changed object. Okay, so virtual DOM is basically compare it to the previous state and understand which area it needs to send for the updates and avoid the other areas. Okay, that's what this virtual DOM really works. So what are React extension? React extensions are many, like you talk about like in Flux, it is a third party tool which is responsible to attach the state management feature. You talk about React Native, which is responsible to develop the hybrid mobile applications in JavaScript. So these are two very popular, and there are many more which are available. Okay, so like you talk about architectural support, you talk about server side rendering. Okay, so Redux, and there are a lot many other tools are also available. So what is an event in React and how you're going to create that? So React is basically offering the ideas of handling the event very fairly easy, so that you talk about clicking anything, you talk about taking your mouse somewhere. So these kind of options generate an event. So for that we typically say alert, and you click on this render, you click on this button in a curly braces, you call the function to trigger to event. Now what are the components in React? So friends, React components are nothing but a call view. Okay, like a complex view can be divided into the smaller portions. A complex UI can be distributed further to create more, better, and reusable views. Clear? So it splits the user interface into the independent pieces of code which can be developed and joined later on. Okay, so that's how you define the component in React. So in Angular and React, in both the areas, the word component is very much used. So the component meaning is very simple. You talk about a view. So what is the state in a React? So state is React is nothing but is the one which identify what was and what is now. Okay, which stores the value for the specific period of time, which changes, and React is basically detecting those. So it is changing because of some actions either taken by the users or by the applications. Okay, so it keep tracking about all those states what it was there. Like in, I'm talking about an incrementing in a counter. So that is also the state a variable there. Okay, so the state object is always initialized in the constructor, so it can contain the multiple properties. So this dot set state is used to change the value of the state object, and set state is responsible to perform the shallow merge between the new state and the previous state. Now the state holds the data that a component renders to the web page. Certainly, because every time the state changes, so it needs to be stored somewhere. So this is how the state is accessed. As you can see this example here. In the constructor, we are defining the super props and the states being initialized and you're rendering the states. There are three different steps are involved. Initialize the state, render the state, and update the states. What is a higher order component and pure component in React? Higher order components are the component which are typically a function, okay, that takes a component and return a new component to you by manipulating few things. They're basically designed for the reusing. Okay, so the higher order components are typically a function that takes a component and return a new component. Okay, so in order to perform some reusability. A pure components are the components, okay, is a variation of React component that does a shallow comparison of props and state. Okay, shallow comparison basically checks what the equality. Are we clear now? So that's what the main job. Going ahead, what do you implement and how do you implement React routing? So to implement a React routing also comes with inbuilt React modules, and that particular module need to import it. So here we define the React modules by offering the route path where you have a call left hand side is the name and the right hand side is the component which you would like to deliver it now. Okay, that's how you define it. So we'll be discussing about some of the important aspects of React. So the very first question is, what is a component in React? See, we know it very well. The React is known to be called component-centric library, where the word component playing a very important role, especially when it comes to the representation part. So in a nutshell, I will say whatever you see in your browser in a modern days applications, they are nothing but a called what? They are so called typically a component. And how to use those components? Let's take a look at my code. So in a very complex applications, the view can be distributed to the smaller portions, and every single portion will be treated as a what as a component. So how to create a component in React? Let's take a look. So to create a component, what I will be doing it, I'll just go back and create a new folder called components. You can give any name, and inside this components, I'm going to create a new file, give the name called main app.js. So here I have to import one package called import react from react, and here I'll be giving component in a curly braces. Now here let's go and create a component by saying export default class main app extends component. And the moment you do so, immediately you have to create a one function called render, which have a return, and this return will return you the JSX. And here I write a very simple message under the div tag and say welcome to, let's put it under the paragraph tag. Okay, that's it. The component is ready. Let me include it under the app.js, which is already created component provided by your React. And here, let's include it and start it by saying npm space start, and it will launch in port number 3000. It is saying like src index.js is not found. Okay, so there are some previous components are written, which we haven't used it. Oh, you can see the message called welcome to main app. So you can see this is a very simple example of how the components are created in your application. That's the one thing. Now the next thing is like how to basically go and create an event, how to gonna launch or trigger an event in React application. See friends, triggering an event in React is very, very simple. What I will do is here I'm gonna write one very simple function call app. Let me put it under here, call app, and here we can say alert app is called. And to trigger the event, I'll be creating a one very simple button, and I say call. Let me have an event call on click equal to, and here in curly braces, I'll be calling this method, which is called call app. Okay. And once it is ready, let's go. And there we go. You see how easy it is for you in React to create an event and launch an event. Okay, everyone. So our next example in the same continuation is like, what do you mean by higher order components? Okay. So you need to understand like when we talk about higher order components, they are the just like in JavaScript function are used for adding additional functionalities to the existing component. It is basically designed for reusability. Okay. So they're designed for adding the additional functionality to the existing components. These functions are pure, these which means like they are receiving the data and receiving value according to the data. Okay. So if the data changes, higher order function rerun with a different input. Okay. So the idea is like higher order function is wrapped around the normal components and provide additional data of it. And that's how this works. Let me try to give you a very simple example of how the React offers a higher order function for you. So let me go back and create a new file and give the name called HOC. Okay. So as usual, I'll be importing the same in HOC. I'll copy and paste the same and give the name called extends component. I'll remove this call app and render return whatever we have it. I'll just remove these two also. So this turns to be a very, very normal function or the normal component. Now what I do is in a very first step in my application, I'll remove all those. I really don't need those first. I'll say const info, okay, equal to props. It is a stateless functional component. Okay. Now here I'm defining a div tag. Okay, within this div tag I'm saying h1 or h2, and within this I'm saying message call info. After this I'm starting with another tag called paragraph tag, and we'll say the info is something, whatever it is, but what data I really don't know, but I can just use something here. Now here if I just say suppose props dot info, so you might be thinking like what exactly the info is. So don't worry, I'll help you how to achieve this. I'm going to create one more called const with admin warning, okay, equal to. Now here we're going to create a very simple, okay, now here I'm just going to give the name called wrapped component. Wrapped is just the name, wrapped component. Okay, here we are saying return with prop. Okay, and here within this props I will use again another div tag here. Within this div tag I can use the paragraph, and I will say this is private info, message we have written. And what I'll be doing within this application, I'll create what wrap component, and within this I'm saying props. Okay, so we are basically printing what? Props. Once it is over, that's it. So you can say const admin info, const admin info equal to, I'm just gonna give the name called what? With admin warning, and passing what? The another component inside this, that is an info. That's it. So that is what we wanted. Okay, and I'll be saying what? Export default, which option? Admin info. And that's an example of typical higher order component. So you can see this higher order components are the components which are taking the input in the form of component and return you what? The another component with changed value. And that's how we're returning the another component with and passing what? A component inside this. So this info is passed to the another component to the wrap with admin warning and returning this. So this is a typical example of like how your higher order components are actually used. Our next example is all about state management. How to define and display the states inside a React. As we know it very well, React takes care about the state pretty well, and that is one of the beauty of React. So let's see how we can use this state management inside your application. So to maintain the state, what I'll be doing it here, I'll just try to create one function called inc increment, okay, or whichever you want to make it. So I better use inc for increment. Okay, I remove this alert. So to define the state inside your component, you always use one line that is known as called uh, constructor. Inside this you define props, and here you use super props number one, and after that you initialize the state the way you want. So to initialize the state, you always say this dot state, because the state is an object, so you define this state with a value called count colon 0. So count is just a variable which you're initializing the initial state with the value 0, and you'll be displaying this value right over here and say counter, and here to display this we'll be using this dot state dot count. Initial value is actually 0, so let me check. Here you can see the value is 0. Now I want to increment that value. So how are you going to be incrementing it now? So to increment this, what I'll be doing is I'll be calling this, okay, this, and calling the set state function by saying this dot set state, okay. And in the set state, I would like to check what are my previous values and what is my current values. Accordingly, I'll try to make it. So here I will say this dot set state. Here I will take one parameter called PS, that is called previous state, and here I would like to say return, and here I will say count colon PS dot count plus 1. PS means previous state is just a variable to confirm what was the previous state of my application, whether it was 0, 1, 2 or whatever. And we have to call this inc function right over here. That's it. Let's check. There we go. Okay, very simple. That is called state management. Very simple example. You initialize the state, and after that you render the state, and after that when the state changes while calling this inc function, this set state function will render the updated state to the DOM. Due to that, you're able to see this value. Now next step is like how you're going to be performing this navigation inside a React application. So friends, when you talk about like a navigation, we have a very straightforward demonstrations here. First of all, in case if you want to perform the navigation, you need to have the new dependencies to be get added by saying npm space I space react hyphen router hyphen DOM. That's the first dependency you need to have it. Okay, and once the dependency is ready, you have to go back and start importing some of the portions of your code. Like suppose if I create another component here, give the name call uh, login.js. Okay, that's my component name, and I'm gonna create one more component here called landing page.js. Okay, so once these two components are ready, so you'll be creating a routes. So in our main app.js or the previous component what we've created, okay, I would like to go back and create some data right over here. Port class, constructor, super, I'm removing it all. Render, return, I'll remove everything. Give the name call, landing page. Okay, extends component and everything. And what I'll be doing is to provide the routing or navigation. Here in my applications, I will try to say how to provide. So I will say const, okay, routes equal to. Now here I would like to make one dependency called browser router. There's some dependency I would like to use. So here I'll say import from, you can see React router down. This dependency came, and now I'd like to bring the first dependency here that is known as called browser router. That is the location from where your navigation will pick up. And within this, I'm using this div tag. Within this div tag, I'm using route. Okay, I'm saying path equal to, if I say login. Okay, so which component should load? So I'm saying component equal to which component I have it here. I've recently created called login, but I didn't write anything there. So here, so let me go back and create it, remove this all. Okay, and writing, welcome to login. And here in my landing page, when I go, I say component, I say login. Okay, that means when I will be clicking on this, I'll be getting what? The login. So that is the path I've given. Okay, and this particular routes, I'll be putting it right over here. Routes, that's it. And this is my landing page, and I will be making it landing page available under my main app. Or if you want to make it app.js, you can make it. Okay, say ng space, sorry, npm space start. Now the navigation is taking place. Now nothing is coming up because landing page is blank. But yes, I know one thing. If I try to click on login, something will come. There we go. Welcome to login. That's a very simple and straightforward behavior of like how the navigation take place in React applications. Okay everyone, so we will go ahead with the next set of interviews which is related to your Angular. So Angular is as popular like in React. Okay, so there are some questions which are usually asked like what is the data binding? Okay, so the data binding is actually the process which allows the application, okay, to have some data associated with your HTML page from your TypeScript classes or the vice versa. Okay, so the data binding is the one through which you bind the data. Okay, so you can see here it says like Angular uses two-way data binding. When the changes happens in a model, it will be affected in a view, and when the changes happens in a view, it will affect the model also. So it is used to typically keep the model and view in sync with each other to have the data interchange. What is a TypeScript? TypeScript is a typical, I would say, a language which is used by Angular, okay, to develop Angular component services, pipes, decorators, and multiple things. It is a superset of JavaScript, and it supports JavaScript libraries and APIs. It is a pure object-oriented in nature, uses object-oriented principles, better development time, fast to load, and additional features to the JavaScript for sure. Okay, what is an AOT compilation? How it is different from JIT? AOT stands for ahead of time compiler, which is converting all Angular and HTML and TypeScript code into the JavaScript code during the build phase before the browser downloads and run the code. Okay, so AOT is far more faster and lightweighted in the size. Just-in-time compiler is a by default compiler. Okay, so it is a process where the compiling computer code to the machine code during the execution of runtime. So this ensures the faster rendering in the browser. It also known as called dynamic compilation. Are we clear? So when you want to develop this AOT compiler, you always use hyphen hyphen AOT. Okay, so here you always use JIT compiler because that is the by default compiler you use when you say ng build. Next, what are the pipes in Angular? So pipes means they are the decorators. They never change their default value, but just for the representation purpose, they change the values. Okay, to look more better the way they always want. Okay, so pipes are ready-made or else it can be customized created. Angular also comes with lot many predefined pipes. Okay, like it comes with the pipe symbol here. Okay, so you can chain the pipes together. It can be provided with some arguments at the runtime with the colon sign. Okay, now you pass the input, you put the pipe and get some result with some decorated outcome. Now you can see the pure pipes uses the pure functions. Clear? So these pipe doesn't use any internal state and the output remains the same as long as the parameters passed to stay the same. Angular calls the pipe only when it detects the changes in the parameters being passed. A single instance of the pure pipe is used throughout the all components. Okay, so this is how you see how the pipes are being used. So we have defined the pipe, okay, which is the value called true and false for the pure, and giving the class by implementing pipe transform. So you can see here the impure pipes for the say for every change detection actually happens in an Angular. And impure is called, are we clear? It regards to the changes in the input fields. Okay, they will be calling every time. So multiple pipe instances are created for the say for these pipes. Inputs passed to these pipes can be mutable. By default, all pipes are pure. Only if you want to make it impure, you always say like pure colon true or pure colon false. Now, what are the promises and observables in Angular? See, promises, it is a typical JavaScript object. Okay, it emits a single values at a time. They execute immediately after the creation and not cancelable. They are pushed error to the child promises. Okay, where the observables are only executable when subscribed to them. They won't call unless you subscribe to them using subscribe methods. So they help perform operations like in for each, filter and retree and everything. When you unsubscribe this, they won't get called and won't listen anymore. What are the form controls and the form groups? See, the form controls and form groups, these are the two predefined objects comes with your Angular. So these all text boxes from you take the input, it may be radio buttons, it may be the drop down, it may be the check boxes are called form controls. Okay, so form controls is a class that enables the validation for every single input class, whichever you are creating it now. So they check the values which are touched, untouched, or the dirty. Clear? Now we talk about called form group. They are basically forming a group which under which you have a called relevant fields joined together are called what? A form group. Okay, so form group class represents a group of controls like you talk about address, contains city, state and pin code. These all three can be together called as a form group. Okay, so the form group class basically return true if all controls are basically what? The valid. Okay, and they are designed to provide all the necessary validation errors. What is a eager and what is a lazy loading? Okay, so eager loading means what? It is a default module loading strategy followed in an Angular. Eager loadings are used before the application starts. These are typically useful for the small scale applications. Lazy loading, however, is designed for dynamically loads the features only on demand. This makes your application far more faster. So in a bigger application, we really don't make easy eager loading because it hamper the performance. And you want only when the client asks you want to use lazy loading. What is a string interpolation in Angular? See, string interpolation is written under the double curly braces. It is a typically one-way binding where you get the data from the TypeScript classes and display directly over your browser. It denotes with the curly braces and it always display the data comes from the component to the view. In Angular, we have two very important areas to be discussed like number one, what do you mean by string interpolation? See, string interpolation is very simple statement like you are talking about a one-way binding. String interpolation is a one-way binding technique which is used to output the data from a TypeScript code, which is a TS file. So whatever data you keep it on your TypeScript, if you want to make it available to the browser for the representation purpose, you always use double curly braces. As you can see right now, we have one property called company name and we have a call my company. And if I go back to the HTML, I can say this company name right now. So this company name is written in double curly braces and here it contains that value. Now if I just give one more option here called uh, my city, okay, equal to if I say Pune, and if I go here, if I want to display the city, so I can use my city, okay. So if I go to the browser, you can see it is showing me this. So that option is known as called what? In string interpolation. You can basically perform some other activities too, like in case if you want to perform some calculations, that also you can do. Like you can see here, we have got num1, okay, equal to 10, and you say num2 equal to 20. So if you want to do that here, you can say and that you can put it num plus to num2, and you can see now it is giving you the calculation. So that is something which is known as called string interpolation. That means whatever you would like to make it, you want to display over your browser from the TS file. The next activity which comes in an Angular, that is known as called how you're going to be deal with, and how you will be dealing with the another concept here called pipes. See, the pipes are basically designed for the formatting purpose. So whenever you would like to perform the formatting, you always use pipes without changing the core values. Okay. So in case if I'm planning to display some records or some data, okay, without compromising the original value, I'll always talk about what pipes. So pipes are always designed to give you some more meaningful messages. Like you can see predefined pipes, different type of pipes are available. Here we talk about predefined pipes which start with this pipe symbol and you put uppercase. So if you put an uppercase, you can see all letters mean, okay, here let me terminate the server. And the other properties are also too. Like in component, if I go and put, okay, and we talk about rating, okay, we say DOJ equal to date, and if you put it in like this, if you put it, and those value if I want to format it as usual, they'll be showing in a normal format. So formatting can really change the way they should look. Like just imagine here I'm making it as an uppercase. In a similar one I can display some other details too, like I copy this and I'm using one more property here called income, and this I put it in a number or currency, which will be showing me the values where in a currency. Again, I talk about this rating. Okay, I can change it to number, and also I can perform what some basic customized calculations. Like suppose rating is 4.9867. I want to trim the post decimal values to 2. So I can say 2.2 minus 2. It'll be going like that. We can talk about date of joining. So if I just go here, we say DOJ and I put what date. It is a predefined pipe. It really make a difference in your existing applications. Let's check. Here, let me refresh my browser. You can see now how the codes are looking like in. So they are basically different set of pipes which are provided by the Angular to make a difference in your application. Hope you're clear. And some generic interview questions. Like you can see about what are the advantages of TypeScript over the JavaScript. So certainly we know that TypeScript is a superset and give you the better benefits over the JavaScript. It is fast, super loaded features, better understanding, code looks like in typical C++ and Java, and offer lot many features like an interface, generics, and many more. How a web developer different from a web designer? Certainly the web developer build a web application using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Web designer basically use all the other tools like an Adobe, Photoshop and other tools. So frequently you use JavaScript framework for developing a web-based application which may be client-side and server-side. You really require a good coding skills and you have to keep yourself updated with your latest frameworks which can create a better effects into your code, where in a web designer is focused only on talking about trends, color, palettes and all. So developer having much more better hand over the web designer. So what is the backend developers? Backend developments, you talk about developing a server-side applications like in Java, JSP, PHP. You're writing and developing the APIs where the front-end application can communicate with, and it ensures the data integrity and consistency, and involve writing a lot of scripting where you can communicate with your backend application and the databases. Okay, what is the coffee script? It is once again a type of scripting available, okay, which is not used further, but yes, it is a type of a language, okay, where you can write the JavaScript code into. So it attempts to demonstrate the positive points of JavaScript in very straightforward manner. So you can write a consistent JavaScript code and getting much more better advantage over the traditional coding. How would you ensure that a web design is a user friendly? There are certain parameters are there. You talk about a front-end developer should work closely with the user experience team. So it gives the same design what the user is actually expect. They should test the application regularly while taking the inputs. So the application developed should be compatible with the different platforms and the different screen sizes. Would you recommend a web designer role or a web developer role? Certainly we talk about called web developer role, but it really a matter of preferences. Okay, if you're more inclined towards the creating the end user experience, I would suggest to go with the web or UX designer role. If you focus on writing everything together, okay, towards more into the coding, you will certainly step into web developer. How you would increase the page performance? There are certain parameters you need to consider. HTML document should clean up. External HTTP request could be minimized. Sprites, compressed images, and the smaller image would be included. At the bottom of the page, you should put JavaScript rather than on a head tag. Optimize CSS, JavaScript, and HTML. Caching on CDN. Okay. So everyone, thank you very much. So these are the quick interview questions we have defined for you. Okay. I wish you all the best and thank you very much.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.